FNAF has officially done it. It's broken me. It's taken me and snapped me in half. Or it's taken my brain and thrown it in two different directions. I couldn't tell you. But what I will say is, if you can guess what snapped me, it's the FNAF literature. I know, big surprise. I know that's a shocker. You're probably gasping right now for like, oh, it was the books? I would have never guessed. No, it actually was the books. It's taken me, it's broken me, and I want to talk about it in today's video because I do feel like I have some valid criticisms, and I do honestly want to hear what you have to say. I don't care if you've never read a FNAF book, if you've never read a single ounce of FNAF literature, a single letter. I don't care. I want to know what your opinion is on the FNAF literature, maybe why you don't read it. Share that down below when you're done watching this video. But to give you context of why I'm recording this video, I was recently rereading a book called Prankster. This book, the first story is really good, so I was like, hey, maybe I can make a video on it. But as I was, working on the video and I was reading the next story in this book, it hit me. It hit me of how I felt about the FNAF literature. I just started thinking, and I went down that rabbit hole of what do I like and don't like about the FNAF books? And oh boy, did the negatives outweigh the positives. And I wanted to make this video because I think these are valid criticisms. I know I already made a video on my main channel. You could probably check that out actually. But my main criticisms and everything that came to mind, I thought were important enough that I should make a video on it. So thank you for joining me now. Now, a lot of these criticisms I have about the, FNAF literature, I just want to say I did like the original trilogy. I'm a FNAF fan. I almost have FNAF bingo. The only thing I haven't done in the FNAF, FNAF fan things to do list, I haven't done fan art because I literally can't draw. If you ask me to draw a circle, I might accidentally give you a triangle. So I'm not joking when I tell you I can't draw, but I am a huge FNAF fan. I love FNAF, I'm building a channel around it, so I do love it, and I really want to see what's best for it, so I just want to tell you that beforehand. But now my first criticism of FNAF in general is the expense of the books. Not even joking, if you're a kid trying to follow FNAF, good luck. There is so much money that you need to pour in to get every book, whether it be the logbook, whether it be the ultimate guide, the character encyclopedia, all the Fazbear Frights, the original trilogy, the graphic novel, the graphic novel retellings of those books, and Tales from the Pizzaplex, and things that'll come out in the future. It's getting super expensive to keep up with the lore. And alongside all this, book knowledge and book reading that you have to do to keep up with the FNAF lore, I feel like FNAF has strayed from the original book ideology. The books in the beginning were meant to be like clarifying things that were going to happen in the games. But sadly, as time has gone on, I'm starting to notice that the books are now telling the lore better than the games. And you could say that it just goes to show how bad of a storytelling job that Security Breach did and how incohesive it was. I will say that the books are now doing the storytelling for the games, which is, first of all, awful because not that many people actually read the books, but second of all, that's not the point of Five Nights at Freddy's. The point of Five Nights at Freddy's is these games are telling you a story that can be either really deep, really shallow, it doesn't matter. But the point of FNAF is the games are supposed to tell you the story, and yet as of right now, there is more content in the books that connects to the games or people are trying to tie to the games than there is in the actual game itself. It's gotten quite ridiculous, and I'm not even joking. My other thing that I want to talk about the books is there's so many false connections in these books to the games. I'm not joking. I think that the books are sometimes made purposefully with these weird connections to the games, like it's a loose, like it could be connected, but they don't connect. And the reason they do that is to constantly have FNAF fans buzzing and thinking about something, oh my goodness, that could be important. It could connect to this, and this. But the reason why it doesn't, and the reason why it doesn't matter, is because they're just baiting you to keep you interested until Ruin releases. And I just want to say something on Ruin real quick. Ruin is a DLC. It's not a full game. For all we know, it could be like a skin content pack. Like they could just reskin FNAF Security Breach to have the girl in the poster be the main character, and all the characters be like goopy versions and the place being like destroyed. It's probably not going to be that, but I just want to explain this. This is a DLC. It's not like we're getting a brand new game. It's a DLC, not a brand new game. Just wanted to point that out. But I do feel like the books are written in a kind of way where connections could be made, but they're not made. They're not made because they were never meant to be connected. They're just done with loose ends, kind of just to bring you in, to tie you in and like, oh, that could connect. And then you realize, oh, it doesn't. That doesn't make sense. But why is that there? Oh, it's just, I get it. It's just all meant to confuse me and okay. That's basically what the point of these FNAF books are. They're just meant to confuse you. They're meant to create, false ties and meant to bring you in. And I want to point out something. I think MatPat agrees with me. Now listen to this. You're probably wondering, MatPat agrees with you? How? I think MatPat agrees because his timeline says something. You see, recently, everyone's been talking about this guy named Mr. Burrows, this guy that's mentioned in the books that could be the overall villain of FNAF. You know, Mr. Burrows could be the new villain for FNAF, but MatPat chose not to go that route. And people were criticizing MatPat, like, why would you go Mrs. Afton and not Mr. Burrows? That doesn't make sense. You know, it could make more sense if it was Mr. Burrows. And I know why. I know why he didn't do it. The reason why is because MatPat knows so many things in these books are sometimes added and they could not make sense. They could mean nothing. Mr. Burrows could be added in the books and then not a single drop, hint, nothing of lore from the game. No hint, no details from Security Breach are connected to him. Nothing's connected. So you want to know what'll happen? Ruin will release and he won't even be mentioned. He will not even be brought in the slightest. He could have been an analogy or a something-ology or a comparison to another character that we've never met. So MatPat, deciding that he would not connect his timeline, not waste time, energy, and money, because he has employees, editors, all that, he would rather connect it to Mrs. Afton, a character that was mentioned once and never really brought into the grand scheme of things, rather connect it to Mrs. Afton than connect it to somebody in the books, because he knows the books, that guy could mean absolutely nothing. You could throw Mr. Burrows out the window. Mr. Burrow could not even exist. That's the way that these books work. They could seem so connected. They could seem so, like, it's like obvious, like, oh my goodness, why didn't you think of that? And then before you realize it, it doesn't matter. Tossed out the window. It doesn't even matter. Lore connections couldn't even exist. It doesn't even matter. Like, oh my goodness, you know, people are constantly reading these books. There's even something about the Mimic now out. You want to know something about the Mimic? The Mimic could be really important. It really could. It could change the way we look at Security Breach, revolutionize the way we look at Burn Trap. You want to hear something funny? Could mean absolutely nothing. Could be nothing. Could be another thing in there tossed to give us something to think about. But at the end of the day, it could realistically mean absolutely nothing. That's what it could be. Because that's just the way they write these books. They write them to seem like it could, be a theory at some point, but in reality, it could be nothing, and they're just trying to get you thinking and then lead you nowhere. My other thing with the literature that did bother me was the release of the encyclopedia. The character encyclopedia was talked about for a while, how there were so many things in the encyclopedia that just didn't make sense or connect to anything that we know in FNAF as of right now, or things that we thought meant absolutely nothing are now relevant because it wasn't mentioned, or we thought it was, retconned or taken out. It's actually now back in. Like, the character encyclopedia did a really good job at confusing us. It did a great job of bringing us in, and we're all excited to read this thing, and then you read it and you're like, this was supposed to help me, not confuse me even further, but that's what it did for countless amounts of people. A lot of people who bought the encyclopedia then realized, man, this really means absolutely nothing. And now my other complaint with the, FNAF literature or some of the stories in Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex is how bad the stories could get. I'm not even joking. Some of these stories are so awful that I would rather drown in maple syrup than actually read these stories twice. You remember the book I told you about, Prankster? This book? I'm not even joking. There is a story in here named Kids at Play that is so unbelievably awful. It is awful to the point, as I mentioned, I would rather drown in maple syrup than read that again. It's so bad. And it just goes to show how some of these stories could literally do this. This is what they'll do. You could write your own Fazbear Fright right now. Let's do it together right now. Let's think of a story. All right, I'm going to name a kid named Billy, and Billy's going to have a dog named Chomper. And Chomper is going to get lost in the woods. Chomper's going to get lost in the woods. And Billy's going to go through this really crazy journey. He's going to, hop over a river. He's going to swim. He's going to go to every length to find that dog. And you want to know what makes that a Fazbear Fright? Is on the collar of the dog, it says, this is a Faz collar. That's what it is. That's what it does. I'm not even joking. I just wrote a Fazbear Fright in my mind. I just did that. That is to the extent of what these stories have to do to be connected to the lore. They're so loose. They're sometimes so bad. They have editing issues. Like, for example, this is an example, but in one of the stories, they completely changed the person's name. I don't know the exact name that they changed, but to give you a comparison, it would be Billy's walking up the stairs, and then it would say Timmy tripped on the stair. And you're like, Timmy is on the other side of town. Why is Timmy here? And it's because through the revisions, I don't know if this is a sign that they rushed the books. I don't want to assume anything, but it could be that it passed people's eyes. Like the editors in the revision process, it somehow slipped through their eyes that they completely swapped characters, and this has happened multiple times in the books. Don't ask how, but it has. It did. It went through all these eyes. We're talking about Scholastic, one of the biggest publishing companies for books and literature. It slipped through their editor's eyes, and it could be a sign that these books are pumped out with just absolutely no thoughts and zero cares in the world. Once again, I don't want to assume this is how they're made, but it could be a sign as to the effort that's really going into these. And now, I know that this video is like kind of like burning bridges, I know, but trust me, I want to see what's best for this franchise. And when I see stuff like this, and I read stuff like this, and I see people spending money on stuff like this, for example, my brother is younger than me, and he reads these FNAF books. He's read Prankster, he's read a bunch of the books. I've bought him some of them. If he wanted to keep, going on with these, he would have to spend tons of money to keep up, but second of all, even my brother knows the quality of these books. These are young adult. Even though I feel like adults spend most of their money and buy more of the books than actual kids, but whatever. But my brother, who reads these, and these are meant for him, has even stated, some of these books suck. I'm not even joking. He read Puppet Carver. He was like, this book is absolutely awful. And I was like, why was it so bad? And he's like, the stories were just not really that good. They weren't written that well. And I think that's a sign that even the audience that they claim to be going for sometimes is just like, these aren't that good. And think about the money, as I mentioned, you'd have to spend to get these books. Okay, unhinged rant. I appreciate it if you stuck with me this far on my unhinged rant, but I just want to top this all with this just one final thing. I want to say, FNAF is reaching a point where the lore is so important and so complex and so crazy at this point, honestly, if you just want to call it that. It's crazy, so complex and crazy, that we have to use books to solve it, but the games aren't matching it. Please, Steelwool, if you see this, just understand that security breach is a sign that y'all did not do a good job on the storytelling aspect, so your books are having to make up the story, and since your books have such a horrible track record with connecting to the games, we can't even trust those. So if you're trying to tell us the story through the books, understand you're doing a horrendous job because we don't know what to believe there. We don't know if we can trust anything in there. And your game did such a bad job at it that we're confused. We're left in the dust. And Ruin, oh my goodness. Guys, Ruin is like Atlas. You know who Atlas is? I think Atlas is like the Greek Titan who holds the world on his shoulders in like Greek mythology. That's basically what Ruin is. Ruin is Titan. Atlas is Ruin. Ruin is basically holding up what's left of FNAF. So many people are depending on Ruin to do so much, and it's just the DLC. It's not even a game. We might as well name it FNAF Ruin. Like that could literally be a game because people are depending on it to do so freaking much. It's insane. All right, that's enough of my unhinged rant. I hope you enjoyed the video and the lawnmower in the background. Trust me, I don't know why there's a lawnmower. I don't even know if you guys can hear it, but there's a lawnmower out there, and it's very loud. So I'm gonna end this video right now. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like. Please comment how you feel about the books, whether you have or haven't read them. Hope you guys enjoy. Go check out my main channel, Sandwich League. I can't talk, man. This is, whew, as I said, it's broken me.